You're listening to the Geek Watch Podcast, Episode 5, with your host, Brian J. Hatcher and Tony Slack. Hello, Geek Watchers, and welcome to Episode 5 of the Geek Watch Podcast. My name is Brian J. Hatcher, and with me, as always, the man who's proof positive that what happens in Vegas doesn't always stay in Vegas, Mr. Tony Slack.
Hey, how's it going, Brian?
Well, some of you, especially those of you who watch the podcast on YouTube, are probably noticing that, hey, there's actual video here. So we're going to try out recording video as well as audio with the podcast. This way you can see the young cherubic faces involved behind the velvety soft voices that you're used to in the podcast.
You make it sound so good.
Well, there you go. Well, now you can see. So, yeah. I mean, and of course, obviously, you're the eye candy of the group. So,
the bar has been set low.
So, what we're going to start to talk about today? Well, so many things have come to an end, and I don't know. Have we had a chance to talk about the Gotham, the end of Gotham? Yes, we did. We did talk about Gotham. We did have the ending of American Gods. Yeah. Are you caught up on this?
Yeah, I am.
So it was kind of interesting because this was supposed to be the second to the last episode, and because of budgeting, they kind of moved things around a little bit to. And so we lost an episode, but so this episode was the season finale, and interesting way to end things.
Yeah.
I don't know. As I recall, you haven't read the book.
No, I haven't.
So one thing that's really interesting is about obviously how they've changed things. I mean, the series has stepped away from the book in a bunch of things. One thing especially is Bilquis. She doesn't have a huge role in the book. In fact, Technical Boy kind of takes her out of the equation pretty quickly. But in the series, and let's just go ahead and say now, spoilers. Because we're going to talk about the season finale. But apparently she's become a double agent at this point. So she's working with the New Gods, so they're expanding these characters and kind of giving her an arc as well. So also Kristen Chenoweth's character of Easter.
Yeah, she's awesome.
That was hilarious. So I'm really looking forward to see how they kind of develop her character as well. So she's become much more of a force in the series, and she's kind of left the world in a bad light.
Yeah, she is unsprung spring.
Yes, she unsprung spring. So. Just in case that there was any doubt that the old gods didn't still have a little bit of juice left with them, they've shot the. They fired the first shot, direct shot.
Yeah, they've done it.
Well, I mean, certainly the first real step in the direction of war was the assassination of Vulcan. Which Wednesday, of course, completely lied to Easter
about.
Oh,
look, he made me this really nice sword. He's a cool guy.
Yeah. He said they killed him because he made me this sword. It's like, well, that's not exactly what happened.
Yeah.
But then Wednesday, the one thing he doesn't lie about is the fact he's a liar.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But and then of course we have Laura Moon showing up right at the end. It's like
she's really falling apart, isn't she?
Yeah, absolutely. So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of develop her. Of course, in the book. Her and Shadow they go their separate ways.
Yeah, I would hope so.
But
if I was Shadow, I'd be scared.
But we do have that little Easter egg about the small town that's in the book.
Okay.
Bilquis in the bus drives by the sign for the town. So
I saw the sign and I wondered what that.
It's something out of the book. It's that town plays a huge role in the book. Okay. So it'll be interesting to see how they use it in the series. So of course I'm not exactly sure how long it's going to take them to get to the next series. I'm not sure what their planning is. It took them I believe, 6 months to shoot this first series. So
now we already been guaranteed a second season, as far as we know.
I think so.
I haven't read that myself, but
yeah, I think so.
kind of important, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that would be like a really crappy cliffhanger.
It'd be like it was on ABC if they did that, because
Oh.
yeah.
Yeah, that's yeah. So there you go.
Yeah,
but
you put it on networks, and
but I think Starz has gotten at least a good enough rating. Although, of course, cable television like that rating is not as important as it is with broadcast television. But I think it's going to be. I suspect that we should see more of it.
Oh yeah,
I think it did. I think it did pretty well. So,
yeah.
and trying to think. Well, starting this weekend, we have the first of the two-parter season ending for Doctor Who.
Okay.
So and I have to say, this has been a very interesting series for me, because this entire season has been the epitome of Stephen Moffat.
Okay.
I think. I mean, we're getting a lot of great fan favorite stuff. We have the overarching story arc. And we always have that little middling kind of problematic something, and there's always something. I always find a little bit problematic in his storytelling, and in this season, it's been the character of Missy, who's been this character has been an ongoing villain throughout the old series and the new series.
Okay.
Sort of usually a male known as the Master.
Okay.
But her latest, she's a Time Lord, so this is her latest incarnation, and she's a female, and she calls herself Missy. I know what her name is. Missy, short for mistress.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And she apparently, at this point, she's being rehabilitated,
Mm-hmm.
and honestly, it's not been that convincing to me. I mean, she's been rehabilitated because they've kept her locked up in this vault for so long.
Okay.
And there have been these indications that they've kind of played off the fact that no, this is not some devious plan of hers. But I'm wondering how well this is going to play off, because to me they really haven't had enough story with her to make it convincing that she's really trying to change.
Okay.
So I mean, it doesn't. I mean, either she is really trying to change, and I'm not that convinced, or I don't feel there's enough motivation to explain why that is, or she's being devious, and why would anybody believe it?
Yeah.
But again, with Stephen Moffat, he's really good at the fan service stuff. He's really good at coming up with interesting plots. Sometimes they tend to be convoluted, but I mean, still very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll, like I said, we get this two-parter, and and the second part should end either with the death of our main character and his regeneration, or at least leading up to it, where it's going to happen in the Christmas episode. I don't know, but I believe the Christmas episode should be Stephen Moffat's last episode as the showrunner, and then Chris Chibnall will take over.
So Dwayne Johnson didn't get it. No.
Well, he could have gotten it. We don't know yet. We have no idea. No one has said who the new Doctor is. So there's been all this speculation, but they've kept it pretty much under wraps, which is interesting, because Stephen Moffat, when he brought in Peter Capaldi, the last Doctor, there was a massive announcement. They had a special on television, on BBC television, to let everybody know. At this point, they're not saying anything. So maybe they haven't cast him, maybe they have, and they want to keep it completely under wraps. But as of right now, there's no telling. So I'm not sure.
And everybody probably notices that I'm being very quiet
because you don't watch the show. You don't watch the show.
I will start watching it if The Rock becomes Doctor Who.
Well, there you go.
Because you like blow everyone's mind.
Exactly.
But it's not going to happen.
No,
moron.
No. But that would be a shock. Nobody would see that coming.
No, they would not smell what they were cooking.
So yes. So speaking of shows that some people will watch and some people don't, how far away are we from Game of Thrones?
Around mid-July, I believe.
Mid-July. So we still have a few.
Yeah.
We still have a few.
Yeah.
And then we've already So we've already lost out on the what is it that's starting up? Preacher starting
on
up.
AMC, yeah.
So it's starting out following up the weekend American Gods ended. So my Sundays haven't completely opened up. So we got Preacher coming.
And I know you're not watching Fear of the Walking Dead, but man, season 3 they've really picked it up.
Oh really?
Well, it's just the show has gotten interesting, I guess.
Really?
You could say. I mean, it just right now they've got such a great cast on there. They've had a couple of upsets as far as lost one of their major cast members. I'm not going to even go into it because it's just some people may not have watched it yet. It's not that important, but there is a big character that is lost in the second episode. So, but yeah, I have struggled to watch the first 2 seasons, and this season I'm finally like, I'm starting to care about a couple of these people. I hope they make it.
Well, that's good. Well, that's really good. That's good to know because, I mean, I tried to watch like the first little bit of it, and I just really didn't get into it.
What's really bad, season 1? It's just, I know it was an experiment. They're just wanting to make as much money as they can off of the Walking Dead franchise.
Oh yeah,
and it's a nice premise. I mean, you got this whole different group of people that's out in California, and they're in Mexico right now. And like I said, that first season and a half, I was just like, man, I don't think I can do this. But now they're in season 3. We're like the 4th episode in, and I'm like, man, this is really good TV right now.
Well, I'm glad to see that it's starting to pick up a little bit. I mean, I watched a couple of episodes, and it was like I'm not really getting into it. But
I understand that with anyone.
So maybe it might be worth revisiting. After, but we'll see. We'll definitely see.
Yeah.
One thing I definitely did want to talk about today was something really weird happened yesterday. There was a press junket for the new Spider-Man Homecoming film, and we had Kevin Feige and we had Amy Pascal on being interviewed about this new movie, and of course, the two of them are working together producing this film. And I don't want to start going too much into Amy Pascal's past, but she hasn't had a lot of luck with Sony. She's had a couple of bad things happen to her. One with, of course, the Sony leak, which again I'm not going to go into, and of course she produced the Ghostbusters reboot, which wasn't a huge success for her. But of course Sony with working with Kevin Feige on the Spider-Man movie should do pretty well for her. But what was interesting, what happened was during this press junket when they were interviewing her, of course Sony is planning on taking at this point they have sort of a co-ownership of the Spider-Man character with Marvel Studios. And what Sony's decided to do is they want to make a couple of films based off of other Marvel properties that they have full ownership of. They want to do of course we talked about the Venom movie with Tom Hardy, and they want to do what they're calling it Black and Silver with Black Cat and Silver Sable, and they want to produce those. And they asked Kevin Feige a few days ago in another press junket, would these be tied into the Marvel Cinematic Universe? To which he said, no, they won't. They're Sony's property, the intellectual property. They're going to do their own separate thing. Well, at this press junket yesterday, they kind of asked her the same thing, and she didn't come out and say yes, it would, but she did say how much she really wanted to push that into there. She goes, she was saying things like she wanted to see Tom Hardy Spider-Man in there. She really wanted to make this part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And it was a very uncomfortable moment because you look over and you see Kevin Feige and he's just kind of giving her this, what is she talking about? Kind of look on her face.
Who told you this?
Who said that this was going to happen? Now, there hasn't really been any kind of official statement on this, but I'm wondering, as of right now, I don't see a reason why they're going to want to start a fight between them, because they got this movie coming out, pretty soon. And so there'll certainly be enough time to talk about this afterwards, but I have a feeling that there's going to be a clarification, I feel.
Coming up shortly. Maybe after July 7th.
I think so. I certainly think so. What do you think of this kind of situation right now?
Well, I think that Sony's will have to do what we were talking about earlier, and that's just keep their cool, let things flow.
Yeah.
This is going to be probably a huge success for Sony, no doubt.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be one of the biggest film features they've had in a long time. I think it's going to be a real moneymaker.
Oh, I think so.
I mean, you're talking Spider-Man and Iron Man together. I mean, Robert Downey Jr.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a perfect chemistry, I believe. And Michael Keaton as Vulture. I mean, this movie is going to blow people away.
I think
and
so.
I think they know that.
Yeah, well, I think so. The thing about it is, I mean, besides the characters, Sony really doesn't bring anything to the table for this. No. I mean, this is sort of Marvel Studios coming in and kind of taking hold of all this. Yeah. And I mean, I think we talked about this before in the podcast. This idea of bringing in Venom and trying to do their own thing. I mean, Sony, they've had a little bit of luck with the Marvel properties, but especially recently, not so much.
No.
But and I don't think that Amy Pascal was trying to do some sort of a power play.
No.
But if she was, that's a really dumb idea.
Well, maybe she's just such a fan, and she's like, I really want to see Rocket fight Venom. But maybe she just got ahead of herself. Maybe she had a conversation with someone that said, maybe 10 years down the road we can tie all this in together. But right now we can't, and maybe she just got...
Yeah, well, this could have been a lot of wishful thinking at this point, but...
Yeah, it should have been checked, though.
Before she started kind of spouting that kind of stuff off, she certainly should have maybe talked to somebody about it first.
I actually saw on Facebook yesterday a little post, and I didn't get into reading it, but now I know why. It was like, Sony finally announces there is a chance of Venom tying into the Marvel Universe. But I didn't read it, but... Yeah, now I know where that even came from. So.
Well, that's the thing about it. It's kind of like in Dumb and Dumber. So you're saying there's a chance. Yeah. It's like, well, not well, and not saying that it couldn't happen.
Yeah,
but,
like I said, 10 years down the road, who knows?
Yeah, well, I think the thing about it is, Marvel is not going to try to shoehorn in somebody else's movie and try to make it work.
No.
I mean, the reason why the Marvel Cinematic Universe runs the way that it does is that they're very careful about what they put in all the films.
Oh, yeah.
So, continuity and everything else, I don't see them wanting to let Sony do whatever they want in the film and then try
to them.
And try to attach it to them and then try to make that canon in some way. That's not going to work. If they're going to allow films in, it's going to be they're going to have a say on the script. They're going to be able to say what they can say and what they can't. Same thing they're doing with Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah. And they got to, really, because I think if they just let Sony do whatever they want, and then let's say put Venom in a Spider-Man movie. Yeah. And all of a sudden they're like, you know what, Tom Hardy, we love the Bane voice. Can you do that as Venom?
Exactly.
Well, Spider-Man.
I am your dark shadow.
I'm coming for you, Spider-Man. Then the Spider-Man will be like, oh, what are you saying? I can't understand you. But you know what?
It's like, how come my mask doesn't muffle my voice, but yours muffles yours?
Because I'm Venom. But no, seriously, I mean, there's a lot of reasons Sony, understandably needs to make their own universe, and I hope it works. I mean, because they can take several of these characters and intertwine them and make movies, and who knows, down the road maybe Spider-Man will join the picture, but that still doesn't mean that we have to ever cross back over into Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man and the Marvel universe. Oh,
exactly. So. I agree with you. For me, my big thing is, my hope is that they don't. I mean, with this, I don't want to see Sony and Marvel's relationship crack up.
No.
Because I'm sitting here in hopes that we might see a similar relationship between Marvel Studios and Fox.
Yeah.
I'd like to see.
That's desperately needed.
That would be. I would love to see that happen.
Fantastic Four needs redeemed.
Yeah.
Silver Surfer needs redeemed. Galactus needs redeemed.
True enough. Absolutely. I'd love to see an awesome Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah.
But I honestly, I think that eyes are going to be on the Sony Marvel Studios relationship and how that works, because that will certainly, I think, might down the road, bring about a Fox, Marvel. Yeah, and I would love to see that. But
who wouldn't? I mean, you'd love to see them all come together eventually. Mm-hmm. The trinity of these three corporations that have Marvel characters. But you know what? We just gotta take it slowly and see what happens. But Fox, hopefully they're watching and seeing what happens. And thinking,
I mean, it's it's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a more tumultuous reunion, sort of a marriage between those two studios, because unlike Sony, Fox has had some success with their movies. So it's not like Marvel can come in and say, "Look, guys, you don't know what you're doing."
Yeah.
They could kind of. I'm not saying they did that with Sony,
Yeah.
but they could kind of get away with saying that because
you literally had 3 Spider-Man movies in a row that just they didn't necessarily bomb, but in the end they didn't even matter.
Yeah,
exactly. The third one of Tobey Maguire's was just like it sealed the deal that Spider-Man in this universe was over.
Well, at that point, they made the mistake that a lot of superhero movies made, which is let's cram as much stuff in there as we can.
Yeah.
Did you really need to have the Sandman in there? But and again, of course, the Amazing Spider-Man 2, where you just shoehorn the Green Goblin in there just because you have to have that. You have to have that story.
Yeah, it's that was one of the most disappointing superhero movies of the last few years I've seen.
Yeah.
And I had so much going into that movie, so much hope, because I love the Amazing Spider-Man. I thought it was a great movie.
Oh yeah.
And then the second one, it was like all of a sudden they did what's happened with so many superhero movies. They're like, let's throw this in, let's throw this in, let's throw him in, let's throw her in. Let's make it all work in one movie instead of doing what Marvel does best and dragging out a storyline over 8 movies and just making it all work. I mean, there's so much payoff as Marvel just continues to build out one hit after another.
Well, they wanted to get that Gwen Stacy story in, so Gwen Stacy, and her death, because of the Green Goblin, or directly or indirectly, depending on how you look at that story.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was
they really cheapened her death. I mean,
well, they did. Well, the same way that DC and Warner Brothers really cheapened Superman's death by shoehorning in Doomsday at on the 11th hour, and completely botched that storyline in a huge way. So again, and Wonder Woman, this is the 3rd week, and she went down to number 3.
Yeah, that's okay.
Which is okay. I mean, the thing about it is, if you look at her the 15-day total, I think it was like $11 million more than Man of Steel was at the same point.
Yeah.
So certainly making good money.
Well, I went to see it again.
Yeah.
Me and my wife went to see it last Friday, so it's not my fault she was only in 3rd place. I added my money to the pot.
Oh, yeah. So... But holding their own against, still holding her own against the Mummy.
Yeah.
But then again, apparently not that problematic. I haven't seen the Mummy yet. I have this feeling that I may wind up going to see it here eventually.
Yeah, I'm afraid to. I've had a couple of friends go and see it now, and they're like, it's just sad to see the.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be for me. For me, it's going to be an interesting. It's going to be an interesting exercise for me, because I wonder if I can go into it completely cold and not be influenced by the bad reviews. I want to see if I can go in there and just completely ignore the reviews. I'm not sure if I can, but I want to try that experiment and see if it's.
You usually cannot go wrong with Tom Cruise. I mean, there's not many times I've left a Tom Cruise movie thinking, I wasted my money. This sucked. I mean, there's been some movies where you're like, well, it's not quite his work, but these reviews have just been god awful.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've had a couple of personal friends that went and said, I was like, should have waited and watched it on Fire Stick. Yeah, and to me, Fire Stick is a great tool. I have one.
God bless you, Amazon.
But some movies they're made for the theater.
Yeah.
And being told, I should have just watched a crap copy of it with Chinese subtitles on Fire Stick.
Oh, good Lord.
So, who knows? But I'll give it to Tom Cruise. He's the man. He puts out some work. I would say that it's not due to his lack of talent that this movie bombed.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he acted his heart out on this one. It's just, we'll see. Like I said, if I get a chance to watch it this weekend, we'll see how it goes. Maybe because my expectations are so low that I might come out going, well, it wasn't that bad. I mean, I went in there not expecting a great deal, so it really worked for me.
I've got an experiment for you. Why don't you go see Transformers 5 first? Comes out tomorrow. And then make that the bar, and then go see The Mummy, because I mean that's a pretty good bar there. I mean, if you come out of there saying this movie was worse than Transformers 5, then what are you saying about The Mummy?
Good Lord, I might actually have to go to a bar after that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that would be some rough stuff. But really, I mean, that's a big movie. It's coming out tomorrow. You know, I don't have a lot of interest in seeing it at this point.
Yeah.
But The Mummy. There's a lot of things supposed to be coming from this movie down the road.
Oh yeah.
So it's unfortunate that it's not doing that well.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. I want to end the show with a little bit of a mental exercise. Something I've been thinking about, and it goes back to something we were talked about before. Comic books in general, but Marvel comics in particular, have been having issues with selling their comics.
Yeah.
And they've not been selling very well.
Yeah.
And Marvel laid the blame on the diversity that he was trying to bring into the comics, saying that, you know, our readers apparently they weren't really big into the whole diversity thing, which I think is kind of a cop out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I saw a video by a young woman who does movie reviews, and she's in the comics. Her name, she goes by the name of Comic Book Girl 19.
Okay.
And what I'm going to do is, if you guys are watching this on the YouTube side of it, I'm going to put up it'll probably be right about here. Right here.
Okay. You say so.
Yeah. Okay. There'll be a little indicator to the video. I'll put up a card for the video, so that so you can click on it. But if you're hearing us on iTunes or SoundCloud, just go on YouTube and do a search for Comic Book Girl 19 and look for this video. But and check out a lot of her other videos. She's a very intelligent, you know, very good commentator.
Okay.
But she does this video about you know the declining sales of comic books, Marvel. She talks about the situation where they're saying diversity was a problem, and she said that she's part of the problem because she'd stopped buying Marvel comics, and reading them.
Okay.
Now, obviously, diversity. She doesn't have a problem with diversity. Obviously, she's not gonna have a problem with them having comic books with women in them.
Yeah.
Minorities aren't going to be a problem for her. Yeah. She's not in that situation where it's like, oh, I don't like that Thor's a girl. She's not going to have a problem with that.
And I think with most people, what it probably is it's not that they don't like Thor as a girl, it's they like Thor as Thor. Yeah. And you can always expand on these characters. You don't have to rewrite your originals. Yeah.
Well, one thing that she talked about, she said one of the main reasons she got out of buying Marvel comics was they really got into this thing about these huge storylines, where the storylines went over all kinds of, you know, all these different titles.
Yeah.
And that to get into these, you had to buy a bunch
72 issues.
72 issues of all these different comic books to stay up with this. In fact, they're doing right now they're going through one of these huge storylines involving Hydra.
Yeah.
And I mean, you have to buy this issue of this comic, this issue of you've got Secret. It's called Secret Empire.
Yeah.
And you've got the main comic, Secret Empire.
Yeah.
That follows a storyline, but then you got to go through all these other comics.
It breaks down all the characters.
Yeah. And she said, I just don't have that kind of money to buy 70 some titles. Yeah. And so she said that her issue with sticking with Marvel is they constantly do these runs of these massive storylines, and you can't keep up with everything.
No, you can't.
And I thought, you know, and what I thought about that, and of course, in a sense, it's kind of what got me out of comics was because it became really expensive.
Yeah.
But you know, I thought about it, and one thing that I have noticed that in a lot of things involved in geek culture, there is a huge buy-in.
Oh, yeah.
And to get into a lot of different things in geek culture, and not just that there's a huge buy-in, but there's a constant buy-in. You have to. Yeah. I mean, there's
a constant flow of merchandise and product. I mean,
well, I'll give you a couple of examples. Probably the most obvious is video games.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you got to either buy a system, or you buy a couple of systems.
Yeah.
Or you buy a PC if you're a PC gamer, then you're spending $60 for a game.
Yeah.
And then you have all this downloadable content that you have to continue to buy. So it's like there's this huge amount of money.
It is never ending.
That's never ending when it comes to being into video games. Another smaller example is Magic the Gathering, that card game, because it's a collectible card game, and you build decks. And at the beginning, they wanted to bring in the idea of trading cards, so that you know if you try to build a deck, you can trade with other people. But now it's gotten to this situation that's like every year to 2 years, you come up with an entirely new base set. You're constantly, every couple of months, coming out with a brand new set of cards that are based off of a storyline. So,
but we buy them, don't we?
But you buy them. You buy them because if you don't, because if you don't, then you're not really competitive. You're not. You can't. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to play with other people if you don't have the latest set. Because what winds up happening in a real sense is that they come out with new game mechanics and everything like that for these cards, for these sets, and they become, in a sense, a beta test. If it doesn't unbalance the game too much, then they might introduce a card or two from these sets into the main set, the next main card set that comes out. But the thing about it is, very often what will happen is a lot of these cards that come out are ridiculously overpowered. Now they'll eventually go away, because what will happen is they'll do like maybe 2 or 3 sets that are tied into a storyline, and while that storyline is going on, you can play any of the cards, and a lot of these are grossly overpowered, so you get mowed over. Now, of course, those cards will eventually go away. You won't be able to play them in tournaments and that sort of thing. So you have to. Then they go to the new set of 2 or 3 or 4 card sets that are the new series. So basically, unless you're playing an unlimited tourney, you got a bunch of decks you can't play anymore. So it's just it's a constant.
Well, could you imagine if there's anybody out there that's collecting all the vinyl pops these days?
Oh, good Lord!
You go to any con, you go to any flea market, any antique store. There's pops for everything. I'm talking. There's even Golden Girls now. And I'm like, when's this going to stop? Because they're like doing everything. I mean, like the Beatles, and everybody's going to love one of these items. You know what I mean? Like, there's going to be somebody out there that buys the Golden Girls, but I'm like, is there really such a demand for the Golden Girl action figures that we need to have a set of 4 of them?
Yeah, well, as long as they sell them to somebody, I suppose.
But it's
and
nuts.
I'm really into board games. I love board games, strategy board games, and it's not necessarily as bad as everything else. But I mean, there's always some brand new board game coming out, and I'm constantly buying these. I mean, it just seems that for the most part, to be in the geekdom in some form requires a huge amount of money. I mean, there's always that stereotype of the geek being the computer programmer and somebody who's into the tech field. And in a sense, I can see why that kind of we have that kind of stereotype, because you need to have a really good job to be into geekdom.
You're gonna have to be.
And I thought about it, and I was thinking, is there any kind of geekdom that really doesn't have this huge financial overhead? And the only thing that I can really think of that kind of fits that criteria is superhero movies and television. Now, I mean, because if you're into superhero movies, you may buy a ticket every maybe 4 to 6 months at the most to keep up with everything. And I mean, television, it just kind of comes with the package for the most part. So and I feel like that's probably the reason why, of all geekdom, that's the most popular. Because again, it's not this huge drain. And can you think of something else maybe that's a geekdom that somebody might be into that doesn't have like this really huge overhead?
No, I would think that you're right with the superhero movies. The only thing is even though you've got the superhero movies, then you've got the geeks out there, and I'm guilty of it. If it's a great movie, I might get a couple of bucks to put on the shelf. I might end up going buying a set of figures from it, like for Star Wars, So there is a way to keep it cheap by just enjoying those movies, but that still is just like everything else. It's like the base of everything else out there that you can buy. But yeah.
Well, the thing about it is, and I think the difference between that is you can watch the movies and enjoy them, and if you want to buy a T-shirt or a Mac Cat or a action figure or stuff for your kids, you can do that. But you know, if you don't, that doesn't mean you're not allowed not allowed in the movie theater.
It's not going to ruin your experience in the movie. I see what you're saying there.
Yeah, in situations like the video games or Magic the Gathering or comic books. You know, if you don't put that money out, you really comic books. If you don't buy all the comics, you don't get the full story.
And see, that's why I buy Walking Dead now. I mean, the Walking Dead.
Well, there you go. A lot of
because there's no branch offs. You get one comic book a month if you're lucky, and that's it. You know. There's nothing else to that.
Exactly.
And that's great.
Well, that and funny because Comic Book Girl 19 talks about how she's really into independent. She's into those independent comics, or smaller press comics because of that. That there's not this like huge buy-in. For that sort of thing. Yeah. But it just seems that depending on your geekdom, I mean, there's this line straight into your wallet, and it can completely. Absolutely. But I do really kind of feel that maybe it's that the geekdom of television and movies that has become, a good kind of a gateway in for people who they don't want to spend half their paycheck on stuff. So I think that might be a really good reason why these things are as popular as they are, and why they kind of remain to be that way. Well, I think that should pretty much do us for this week.
All right.
So it'll be interesting to see what we may have to go check out Transformers, and I don't want to talk shade about it, but we'll see what happens.
So you may go see Transformers 5 and then The Mummy?
Oh, that's such a bad idea.
It's a way to do it, though.
It's such a bad idea that I might be forced to do this.
Like, what, Transformers 5? It's a franchise. There's 5 of these movies. Tom Cruise should be better than this.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise should be better than a CGI semi-truck.
And I hate to say this, but I got to be honest with you. I haven't seen Transformers 1. I've never seen a Transformers movie.
Oh, you don't want to go into this one then.
Oh.
You'll be lost. You'll be like, where's Shia LaBeouf? Where'd he go? None of us know.
I don't. Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that matters. I mean, I've never seen him. I've never seen him. So how am I going to miss him?
Yeah, he just disappeared.
He
became Mark Wahlberg.
Well, you know what? If I was going to become anybody, I'd have to become Mark Wahlberg.
So. Nothing wrong with that.
Well, I mean, not to say I've never seen any Transformers movie. I've seen Transformers the movie.
Yeah.
Saw that a couple times in the theater. So boom, boom.
Yeah,
so we'll have to definitely check that out. So,
okay.
But I'm sure that there'll certainly be something to talk about by next week.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you guys are watching this on YouTube, on the comments down below, let us know if you want to keep seeing our faces. If this was wasn't too traumatic for you, let us know what you think about it. Give us a like, and if you're catching us on YouTube, on iTunes, of course, subscribe and give us a rating, because that certainly helps out.
They can rate us.
Yeah, they can definitely. Wow. Yeah, I haven't figured out quite yet how to do analytics on iTunes. So I'm not exactly sure how many listeners we have, but certainly building our audience. And until next week, this is Brian J. Hatcher with Tony Slack from telling all of you, stay geeky, my friends.